I want to play cool and pretend that I knew about this, had heard of it. I'm way older than you. Never heard of it once.
It's a very New York thing.
Watched it a couple months ago when I found out that my husband and I watched it in silence and were like, oh, okay, all right. Nothing event is cool. Go. And so my first reaction was, it's sections of the city, and he's going to tell us what they sound like, and he's going to tell us, he's going to find different people that can kind of embody that. Like, was that it? What was the first, like, this is how we're going to make this even more awesome?
You start because I'm putting my mouth.
You want me to say what you say? So what Lynn thought after coming out of Hamilton was, you know, after he'd had this idea of warriors in his head, but it wasn't until coming out of Hamilton and then Gamergate that it really just sort of struck him that if we change the warriors, I'm already putting myself in there, if we change the warriors to being women and change Cyrus to being a woman, then that would actually make the narrative have this new richness and this new sense of
it fucked up and complicated kind of every plot point in the movie by making just that one switch. And you know, I saw this movie when I was 4. I have no critical distance from the movie. It's a love letter to this movie that like was my first mental map of the layout of New York.
Right.
I know I lived closer to Cyrus than the Warriors. Like that map was, and then when I came to Eisa with it to write it with me, she had never seen the movie, and so you know she had all these amazing ideas on like, you know, what this looks like through the lens of 2024. How many genres we can play with, because the other thing is like we're playing in New York in the late 70s, so like who was in the South Bronx? It wasn't skinheads in a school bus, it was fucking Puerto Ricans in the Fania also. So I tried to write the greatest Fania song that never existed for this turbulent seas. We have our Paris is Burning moment with the Hurricanes. On 96th Street, and the great MJ Rodriguez, Michael Kilgore, and Billy Porter. That, you know, ballroom, and that was also very much a New York 70s, early 80s moment. And then really having fun. I mean, really having fun. Like, how far afield can we go and still be in New York and still be bouncing from neighborhood to neighborhood?
Yeah, and because, you know, this film has been sampled so many times, you know, it already keeps being brought into the present, you know, and so I feel like that's in some ways what we're doing is just like kind of going back and sampling like the whole of it and then flipping it.
Our thesis to each other was, this should be an album people want to sample. We're not going to use samples, we're just going to make the funkiest fucking album we can.
It's amazing.
Be like, I want people to steal that bass line, that weird lyrical thing.
You succeeded.
Yeah.
I would be okay if, you know, if you were, I don't know, made this into a musical.
You would be okay with that, is that what you're saying?
She said, okay, we made this into a musical. I mean, and again, like, the fun was in writing it this way, because in writing it as an album, we got to go play with a band for 2 weeks with the great Mike Elizondo and his musicians in Tennessee. And we got to chase this like dream crew of people who would never do 8 shows a week.
We're busy.
They're busy. The busies are busy.
The busies
are blessed. We recorded Daniel Chacal's in South Korea.
Yeah.
We couldn't even get him here to New York. So like the fun was in assembling sort of this dream team because it allowed us to write towards just this dream. It was sort of like, we kind of offered everyone, like, you get to originate a role and you never have to sweat or go to the gym or worry about your diet. We're just making this concept up. Yeah.
I've been terribly curious. Last year when the rumors first broke, I like heard about it from the very first rumor that broke. And I didn't know anything about the Warriors, so I was like, I'm putting this book on my TBR, I have to watch the movie. And I didn't get around to doing that until just a couple of months ago. And the thing that I noticed and saw Yurik's writing is that I was very, very aware that he was a super intelligent person, but he was changing his language to be right for the characters, right? And then I read the afterword that he wrote for it, and I was like, yeah, this is why Lynn's gonna knock this out of the fucking park. So I was just kind of wondering if you would talk a little bit about how you, how much you married the two, the book and the movie, and how it was.
I mean, full disclosure, we're among friends, not a word of the book. The movie is what is in my bloodstream. And when I went to apply for the rights, I was like, oh, there's a book.
Yep.
Because I've seen that movie like 700,000 times. What was exciting about exploring this with Eisa was like, I've seen it so many times, I don't have critical distance from it. She had never seen it, and we really went deep on actually the making of the movie.
Yeah, and talking with all of the people who created it, you know, talking with Walter Hill and Frank Marshall and Larry Gordon, and just kind of discovering things that they wanted to do and weren't able to, why things happened, like Fox dies in the movie because they fired the actor, and so they killed him off. That's why that storyline even happened, because they were trying to get rid of him. So we took that and actually, you know, changed it where that moment at 96th Street now happens at Union Square, and it's this entire character development with Fox, who is the quietest one and has listened, you know, to the Quiet Girls song and was like, I'm going to step up and, you know, take care of my crew.
Yeah, so it really, we did more of a deep dive on the making of the movie itself than I would say than the book.
But one thing about the book, I want to say that there's, you said like he's a super intelligent person and maybe not the people, and I think that the characters that we're creating are all very, very, very intelligent.
Oh,
and I think that the thing that I think is compelling about the book, which is why, you know, it was made into a movie, and why even the book was made, because that comes from a 400 BCE
it's a Greek legend.
narrative, right, by Xenophon, is that there's just something super primal about this story, right? Having absolutely nothing, being stripped of all of your familiarity of home, having no weapons, and all you have is your body, your wits, and your desire to create peace in your city, you know? And so I did want to kind of think about how we move all of these different adaptations and how each one is like representative of its time.
Yeah, and I think something that Eisa really brought to the forefront was they're all lured out of their neighborhoods by the promise of peace.
Yeah.
And really by keeping Cleon alive, like bringing that out, and Cleon basically gets to be Cyrus's living dream, like the dream that lives on, because, you know, even when you watch the movie, Cleon's the one that's like, Cyrus, whole lot of magic. And so I love that Eisa kept Cleon alive because it allowed us to keep this dream alive and a bit of hope at the top of it.
And so that these, you know, bodies aren't just disposable. You know what I'm saying? Right? And also when you hurt or kill our bodies, it's like, you can't kill our dreams.
Can you explain, like, how did this collaboration work as far as music, lyrics, who did what, or was it an equal crossover?
Yeah, it's a jambalaya.
Totally, it's a good old gumbo.
It's a good old Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I think that when we started, I was like, Eisa helped me figure out what the structure of this thing is, but I also said, like, any musical impulses you have, just like send them along. And so like I started getting these voices that were like, when you listen to it back, you can hear Isa's original voice memo to me. It's the first thing you hear after Shensia's, who ruled is madness? You just hear Isa go, that's the horn line of the opening number. A lot of the Warriors music in particular are bass lines that Eisa dreamed. That she was just like, doom, 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 doom. I was like, great, it's going in the gumbo. And so, you know, a few months ago, we kind of revisited our author agreement. We're like, I would feel funny accepting any award without you by my side. Like, you've all done all of this.
Yeah, and what's been so amazing about this is that there's just so much generosity and porosity, and it's just, we kind of somehow managed to like our neurons have just sort of joined. and like we just kind of anticipate, we just can kind of speak as, you know, like one single author at this point, you know, when it comes to everything that we're doing in the making of the record, the executing of it, and the vision of the narrative of the rollout, you know what I mean?
It's true. Like, Atlantic right now is sending us like lyric videos for YouTube, and like they send us the video, and we used to like consult and then write back, but now we just take turns writing back. We're so on the same page, we're like, aren't you write them back? So it's very much hive mind at this point. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So when I watched the movie, I just watched it recently when I heard about it, and Chief from San Diego.
Lin-Manuel, DJ Lin-Manuel as the intern.
Yeah. So you know, I was wondering how you looked at the DJ character and how she played.
Well, I served Lin-Manuel once when I was a waitress. That was very exciting.
I watch Carmen San Diego every afternoon. Actually, if you want like a mirror version of the Warriors movie, go home and watch 1978's Godspell.
Yes.
It also has Lin-Manuel and takes place in New York at the same time. It's like the bizarro happy musical break.
It is weird.
But you know, I think just like in the movie, we use the DJ as like a check-in.
Yeah.
The DJ is both warning the gangs, like is giving everyone a status of what's happening in the streets that night, and is also catching the viewer up on like where we are on the grid from the South Bronx down to Coney Island.
Right, and we wanted to also just really honor the Jamaican roots of hip hop.
Yeah.
By Shamsia, you know? Yes. So that was just really, really crucial to have, you know, that voice be there guiding us through.
Is there any significance to dropping the Warriors?
Well, we just wanted to make sure people knew it was our own thing. That this is like not the kind of thing where we quote every line. Like it really is its own thing, and so that was sort of the easiest way to do that. But it's still a love letter.
Yeah. And we have a warrior in the house.
What's up, Jasmine Cephas Jones?
Just, you know, I mean, the
I think it's her first time hearing the album all the way through.
yeah, it is. Yeah, just absolutely incredible. I mean, you all know how incredible she is. Having her be, you know, the default leader of the gang, right? Once Cleon is abducted, elbowed.
Slowly elbowed in the movie.
You know, was just a really amazing thing to watch, you know, in the studio, to see how Jasmine just like was able to like have her crew behind her. Wow. You know?
And I mean, obviously, like you guys are like LMM fans, so like you know these warriors. And I have to tell you, one of the things that happened that was so extraordinary was at the top of the year when we started recording this, we called our friends to do the demos, but we were already kind of subconsciously casting it in our minds. And as we were recording the demos, and we see this chemistry happening between Kenita and Eisa and Sasha, we're like, fucking pop star, are we gonna get this better than these women? And so our demo singers became our warriors very organically, like just because they were just undeniable and the chemistry was undeniable. So it wasn't long. And I'm sorry that like fucking Pippa survives Hamilton and I fucking throw her in front of her. I feel the posts. You live another 50 years and you throw her right. Yes, Dad.
Amazing album, by the way.
Thank you.
How long did it take to decide who was going to be what borough? Because I know that's like a beast.
Oh yeah, which MC represented which borough. So it was helpful for me in just the writing of it because the opening sequence of the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, it's like all the gangs from all the boroughs coming up. And you've got crazy dressed ones over here. You've got the really polite one that uses tokens to go through the And so I thought the most efficient way to do it was have an MC represent each borough. And it would also be kind of like very Shakespearean choral opening, like, fucking attend the tale, motherfucker. and so, one MC per borough, and then I could just sort of fantasy cast. And so, you know, I'm always thinking about pun, and so the fact that his son, Chris Rivers, is such a genius and brilliant MC, playing the Bronx was very organic. Nas fell in the thing, because I was meeting with him on another thing. Last year was the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and he was just picking my brain, like, what would a Nas catalog hip hop musical sound like, and I still hope that exists one day. But we were talking about that, and he was like, what else are you working on? And I said, oh, I'm working on Warriors with Eisa Davis. And she went, what? It's his favorite movie, and so that's how he's our executive producer. So he was like our first gig. And then, you know, I mean, lots of spirited New York debates of like, is it Mace? Is it Cameron for Manhattan? Is it, you know, Busta? Like, I already know how to write for Busta because I basically wear Hercules Mulligan for Busta. And so, and then like, there's no one else representing Staten Island but Wu-Tang. And I was lucky that Lizzo was a big fan of Hamilton, so that was a very easy yes. But yeah, it was, I mean, fantasy casting. So that you're so ready for the Warriors by the time they've all done their version.
Right, and I was just kind of like, well, does it have to be like all dudes, you know? And then we were just sort of like, no, actually, this is really interesting because it's just like all these legendary MCs, and then they're saying, here you go. So for everybody out there, all the Gamergate people who were just like, oh, the Warrior, there shouldn't be a gender swap, you know, and the Warrior should still be men. It's like saying, no. Here you go. We're passing it over, right?
Yeah.
And it's a secret, but you might hear some women later.
Oh.
You fucking snitch.
Oh.
They went there.
Yeah. There was no plan B. There was no plan B. I met her manager, and this is like deep Hamilton lore for some of you, but there was a Lauryn Hill quote in Hamilton that I took out between Off-Broadway and Broadway, because I just knew I'd never get to clear it. Like, I knew I'd never clear the sample, and I ran into her manager and I told her that. I was like, I had a you might win some, but you just lost one, right after the Adams administration. And Lauren's manager was like, Lauren loves Hamilton. Let's talk about it. I was like, no, forget that, but I have something else. Eisa and I like wrote this like love letter, and we sent the track, and just like our fervent wishes. You know, she was touring the Miseducation reunion all last year, so it was very hard to just get her to studio. She was literally traveling all over the world. And then every week just text the manager, hey, how's it going? Oh, it wasn't actually like Carmen Sandiego. And then one day we just got the Dropbox, and it had the vocals you hear with all of the background vocals that she created on top of what we had sent her. And it's extraordinary. We feel very, 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 very lucky. Yeah?
I know you mentioned that you wrote this long email diary tribe about how it would never work as a musical, and I know that part of that is the gender swapping that you did, but were there other things you can share that were maybe like challenges that maybe Eisa helped unlock with you?
Yeah, well, I think in that initial email that I wrote to my friend, because I had a friend from college who suggested this to me in 2009, and I wrote her back an email saying, it'll never work, here's why. And my spiel was basically like, action movies and musicals are fighting for the same real estate. When you can't sing, you fight, or you sing, or you dance. And how do you negotiate that? And honestly, making it as an album kind of freed us from that, because we just sort of approach it from every angle. In some songs, like Sick of Runnin', by the end of the song, they've won the fight, and you have imagined in your head, we put some sound effects in. In some songs, like Reunion Square, we dilate time, and you're getting a blow by blow of what's happening. in the fight. And so it gave us license to try all the different bits. Like, woe unto the director who's going to have to stage all this. Who are lucky enough to make this as a musical someday. But it freed us up as writers to just worry about adapting it musically and forgive ourselves for not staging the thing at the same time. Yes?
Did you struggle with some of the songs, the music writing? Because, you know, when I listened to it, I was like, okay, will it be different? It was totally different. Some parts were like Lin-Manuel, yeah, but some parts were like so, I didn't see you there at all. Like your musical heart, I know you got it all in you, but were there some that you struggled with, like 60s rock music? And like just...
Oh no, I love 60s rock music. No, honestly, like what you're seeing is collaboration. Like Eisa and I each wrote something together that we could never have written alone. Honestly, and that's and pushed each other. Of like, you know, like I think it was Eisa who was like, what about this sound for Luther, and played me this metal tune, and I could just feel my abuelas in heaven going like this. I was like, oh, this scares the shit out of me.
Thank you.
But you know, like, just like kind of the continual back and forth of that.
And same thing, you know, like Quiet Girls, that song, you know, I was like, here you go, take a listen to this. Which was like something that had like a similar kind of sound and beat. And then, you know, just like, I was like, and here's a hook, let's try this. And we just, and every time we ran up against, you know, like any of these sort of, you know, obstacles, we would just kind of just chip at it, walk away, you know, have a sandwich, maybe step away for like a couple.
The basement of the drama bookshops, we had lots of coffee upstairs.
Yeah. And it was really just like come back and forth, but eventually we would just find our way in and be like, that's it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a musical idea, sometimes it's a character idea. You know, you find just the more you write, like just the end runs around whatever you think is funky. Maybe like,
One more question.
Jessica.
Thank you. Hi. So I found myself thinking about Angela's playlist a lot as I was...
Oh, Angela's mixtape?
As a mixed
Oh my gosh!
yes. So I'm just wondering,
Play of mine.
with the different families and the different genres of music, and I don't know, I found myself thinking about it, and I just wondered if you had any thoughts about it.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to remember. This is a play of mine that I wrote back in 2000. The first reading was in 2003 with the Hip Hop Theater Festival, and then it was premiered in 2008 in Atlanta, and then here in 2009. So in some ways, I think that play just sort of gets at a lot of the themes that infuse this work. Just, you know, where I come from in terms of like the political stance. And also it has to do with why Lin, you know, reached out to me, which is that, you know, there's Angela's mixtape, Hamilton mixtape, right? And that we both have this way of thinking with hybridity of genre, thinking about what can we bring onto the theater stage that maybe hasn't been there before? How can we bring more inclusivity and revolutionary versions of what it is that, you know, and bringing things that we haven't ever seen there. So that's so great that you brought that up. And that was one of the plays that Lin read of mine as he was just sort of like, is Eisa going to be the one, you know, to do this with? And I think it was the right move.